Hi, Isabella. It's so nice to see you again. And thank you so much for coming in today. Before we dive in, I do want to check in with you to see how you're feeling about being here today.
Honestly, a little nervous, but okay. I know I need to do something. Things have been piling up.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate you being here. And just so you know, we are going to be working on your treatment plan. My job is to help you organize what you want to work on and not to tell you what that should be because you are the expert of your own life. Does that sound good?
Yes, that actually helps.
All right. So before we get into today's plan, I want to follow up on something from last time. The last time we spoke, you mentioned that your alcohol use had been increasing along with the stress that you had been under. How has that been since we last talked?
Honestly, about the same. Maybe a glass or two some nights just to unwind after the kids go to bed.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Isabella, for being honest about that. I know that that can be hard to talk about or to bring up sometimes. And I do want us to keep an eye on that together as part of your overall plan, especially since it's tied into how you're coping with the anxiety and the stress that you've been talking about. All right. But we don't need to make it a separate formal goal, but I do want us to keep checking in on it each time we meet. Does that feel okay?
Yes, that's fair. I'd rather someone keep me accountable on it anyway.
All right. All righty. So I do appreciate that. And we'll revisit it each session. And if it starts to feel more than just occasional stress relief, we can always talk about building it into a plan more directly. Um, for now, let's just move into today's plan. All righty. And the last time we talked, you mentioned feeling anxiety, having trouble focusing at work, and not feeling great about yourself. You also told me about your kids seeming more withdrawn lately. Did I capture that right, or is there anything you'd like to add or change?
That's pretty much it. The anxiety is the big one. My heart races, my chest gets tight, especially when I'm stressed about deadlines. And yeah, the kids have been more distant since everything with their dad and my parents.
All right. Well, thank you so much for clarifying that. So it sounds like there are really two things going on right now. What's happening for you internally with the anxiety, and then what's happening in the family. Would it make sense to build your plan around both of those?
Yes, that makes sense.
All right. All right. So, what we can do is we can start with the anxiety since that is affecting you the most day to day. If we fast forward a few months and things were better, what would that actually look like for you?
I guess not feeling like my heart is going to jump out of my chest every time I open my email. Being able to focus without spiraling.
All right. So that is a great starting point. So something like reducing how often those physical anxiety symptoms show up. So it's not a daily thing anymore. How would you want to track whether that's actually improving?
Maybe just noticing it. Like keeping track of the bad days versus the okay days.
All right. I actually like that. I like that a lot, Isabella. A simple weekly log of your symptoms. We could aim for going from daily symptoms down to a week or less over the next 12 weeks or so. Does that timeline feel realistic to you, or does it feel a little bit too fast or too slow?
12 weeks feels okay. Not too much pressure.
All right, great. So I'm going to go ahead and lock that one in as goal number one. Now, let's talk about how we actually get there. So, there are a few different tools that people use for anxiety like this. Some people like learning breathing or grounding techniques. Some like working through a specific thought that spikes the anxiety. and some like something more holistic, like mindfulness or meditation. What sounds most like something that you'd use?
Honestly, all of it sounds helpful, but the breathing one sounds like something I could do at my desk without anyone noticing.
All right, perfect. So let's start there. We'll practice a breathing and grounding technique together, and you'll practice it at home too. So, what about the thought patterns? Like when you start spiraling about a missed deadline, would it help to have a way to catch and challenge those thoughts?
Yeah, I do that a lot. Assume I'm about to get fired over one late report.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is really common with anxiety. We can use something called a thought record to help you catch and challenge those thoughts. Um, we do that together weekly. And for the third piece, would you be open to something like a short daily mindful practice, maybe using an app to help with the racing thoughts overall?
I've actually been wanting to try meditation. I just never stuck with it.
All right. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, let's build that in then. A few minutes, a few times a week, and we can check in on how it's going each session. Okay, now that we have that goal completed, let's shift to the family side of things. So, you mentioned your kids seem more withdrawn and that things are strained with your parents. Where would you want to start there?
I think honestly with my parents. We haven't really spoken since we disagreed about the church stuff. And I think that's part of why things feel so unstable for the kids too. They miss their grandparents.
Yeah, I can see that. And that takes a lot of honesty to say. So it sounds like reconnecting to your parents, even in a small way, might actually help stabilize things for your kids too. What would the first step look like? Now, keep in mind, this is not the whole relationship being fixed at once, just one step.
Maybe just reaching out. Not even to fix everything, just to open the door again.
Okay. All right, that's a meaningful first step, and it's yours to define. So, we're not aiming for a full reconciliation on a deadline, just movement in that direction over the next 6 weeks or so. How does that sound?
Yes, that feels doable.
All right, great. All right. And you also mentioned you used to be involved in your faith community before things got strained with your parents. Is that something that you'd like to or that you like back in your life, separate from the family stuff?
I do miss it, actually. The community, not just the services.
Yeah, so that could be a really valuable support for you. Something like reconnecting with the faith community or a support group a couple of times over the next month, just to start rebuilding that peace.
I could try that.
All right. And with your kids, you mentioned that they've been more withdrawn. What do you think might help there?
Maybe just more one-on-one time. We used to do a family game night and it just kind of fell off.
All right. So bringing that back sounds like a strong, concrete step. Something you could do weekly just to start rebuilding that connection with your kids. Would that feel manageable alongside everything else that we're working on?
Yeah, I think so. It's something we already know how to do. We just stopped.
All right. All right. So everything sounds good so far. So before we end our session, I do want to do a quick recap on what we built together. And you can tell me if anything feels off. So, for your anxiety, we're working on reducing those daily symptoms down to about once a week over the next 12 weeks using breathing and grounding techniques, a thought record for the anxiety thinking, I'm sorry, the anxious thinking, and some mindful practices that you'll try on your own. For the family side of things, we're working on reopening things with your parents, reconnecting with your faith community, and bringing back weekly family time with your kids. Does that feel like it reflects what you actually want to work on?
Yeah, honestly, it feels good to have it laid out like that. It's not as overwhelming when it's broken into pieces.
All right. And that's exactly what we're aiming for. That's the goal. This is your plan, and we can always adjust it as we go. If something isn't working for you, you're the one driving this. All right, Isabella. So we have come to the close of our session, and I do want to thank you so much for being so open today. And I will see you next week, and we will check in on how those breathing practices are going. And I do hope you take care of yourself this week.
Thank you. This actually helped.
You are very welcome, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.